My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. This is the only channel dedicated to UFC fight picks and DraftKings lineups run by MMA insiders and professional fighters. Every week, I join Dan Kramer and Nick Newell, two longtime professional fighters that have fought at the highest levels on the planet, as well as Jacob Lyons, a skinny kid from Indiana. So join us every single week for our full fight card breakdowns, our individual fight card breakdowns, our betting guide, and our DraftKings lineups. Some of the best picks we've ever had, some of the best bets we've ever had, and a phenomenal week altogether. We've had a break. We've let all of that success soak in, and now we are ready for you while Jacob reaches for God knows what in front of him.
Changing the light. I'm just getting the lighting right. It's been
So we are ready. Let's jump right in. We have UFC Vegas 28, and opening up the card, we have Claudio Puelles. That week off did not help my pronunciation of names versus Jordan Leavitt. And this is actually an interesting matchup. So Claudio has coming off of a pretty long layoff. I think it's about a year. Jordan Leavitt is coming off of a pretty wild slam KO. Big time favorite in this fight. I feel like the UFC really wants to push him and really wants to get him going. And they're giving him Claudio thinking that it's a gift. And it may not be a gift. So this is an interesting matchup. But Danny, I'll let you go first. What are your thoughts?
I mean, my thoughts originally are that we should expense through the company, We Want Picks, Rosetta Stone for Angelo, just so he learns how to pronounce names and just actually forget Rosetta Stone. We should start with Hooked on Phonics, so he learns just basic syllables, how they work, not skipping and adding random sounds. This one I'll give you is a tricky one, but I believe it is pronounced Puelles. So
Puelles sounds much better than Puelles.
Yeah, Puella Deville or whatever you said. Yeah, this is I agree with you. I think this is a fight that they want Leavitt to win. I think he should win, and the odds are around. He's around minus 200 now. Well, when we get to the betting video, we'll talk about that. But I think he's going to win this fight. I think he should dominate this fight. I watched tape on both these guys. They both have similar styles, we'll call it. But let's start with Puelles. So he's young. He's in his mid-20s. So right off the bat, he's been off for, I think, a couple of years. He could be improving. That's an X factor.
I have that in my notes for this fight and another one that Dan says these young guys improve very quickly. So the layoff for a young guy is much trickier than the layoff for a 40-year-old.
Do we just interrupt each other now? I didn't know.
We do now, yeah. Well, there's new software, the whole new look and feel to the channel. And
Angelo found some new software. That means he just
whole new cadence
whenever he wants. Now, I mean, it's one of those things where young guys.
Yeah, so I was basically looking at the fight, and what I see in Jordan.
All right, we won't interrupt anymore.
Well, we're off to a quick start tonight. It's going to be 2 a.m. when we finish. Yeah, no. Puelles is young, mid-20s. He's 2-1 in the UFC. Sort of. One of those wins was, I mean, he got it, but, man, he was in trouble early. But he's definitely a grappler. And, it says right here, he hasn't fought in almost 2 years. What has he been doing? That's the big question. The one thing I'll say, though, is certain tendencies you can notice in people. And it's kind of hard. Like, if you don't like getting hit, if you don't like striking, it's hard to break out of that. You really have to force yourself. It's almost kind of an instinct for some people, fight or flight type thing. So he has not looked like he likes getting hit, and he doesn't look like he likes to strike in some of his last fights. So, anyways, watching tape on him, his last fight was against a striker. He got an instant takedown pretty easily. He looked solid, like everyone kind of does for the first couple of minutes. He trapped the legs against the cage. A little bit of ground and pound, looking for subs, threw up some Kimuras, tried for some sweeps. Just a good, decent jiu-jitsu guy that was kind of having his way. And then by the third round, he actually, so this fight he dominated this whole fight. But I'm looking at Felipe Silva 2 fights ago. Sorry, I was getting my fights mixed up here. His last fight he won, he looked good. Easy fight for him, good grappling, good wrestling. But the fight I want to kind of clue on 2 fights ago against Felipe Silva, who's a good kickboxer, same thing, started off, Puelles got the easy takedown, went for a little ground and pound, but by the end of that fight, he was getting beat up on the feet. He couldn't get the takedowns. He would shoot for a takedown. If he didn't get it, he'd pull guard. He pulled guard, I want to say, at least 3 or 4 times in the fight, and got beat up on the feet. And then once he was pulling guard and wasn't getting subs, getting his way, he was getting smashed a little bit on the feet. And then out of nowhere in the 3rd round, he pulled off a Hail Mary knee bar and literally kind of pulled the fight out of nowhere. So I think had he not done that, I don't know if he'd still be in the UFC or not, but he looked in trouble in that fight. But most importantly, kind of what I saw is just his body language. Like, he looked like he was ready to kind of give up prior to that knee bar. And I think against Leavitt, who's also a grappler, I would just argue a little bit better everywhere in all the same areas. He's got better wrestling. I think his jiu-jitsu's better. I think transitionally, that's going to be the big factor in this fight. I think when Leavitt does get it to the ground, whether it be via takedown or Puelles pulls guard, I think he's going to move from side control to mount and just wear on Puelles and dominate positionally. I don't know if he'll get the sub. I think there's a good chance he will. But if he doesn't, I think he just dominates the fight positionally. And I think matchup-wise, this is just a bad matchup for Puelles and a really good matchup for Leavitt. So I think he's going to dominate this fight. I'm not sure if I'm going to put him in my DraftKings lineup. What's his score in DraftKings?
His price?
9,000. Yeah, I don't love him that much. Although I do think he'll probably get a bunch of takedowns. But for 9,000, I think that's a little too much. But I think he dominates the fight. And even at these odds, minus 200, I think he might be worth it, to be honest. I think I'm gonna lay a bet on him as well. So, anyways, I think he dominates the fight. Just a better overall in every area that Puelles excels at. And unless Puelles has been boxing for the last 2 years only, I don't see it being a good fight for him.
So I see it similar. I think neither one of them are good strikers. They're both grappler first approaches. I think Puelles has lots of leg kicks, like tons of leg kicks to keep the distance, and then he comes in, for his takedowns. He had that Hail Mary knee bar. I saw that as, I took that as, wow, Puelles is so tough. He can get the crap beaten out of him, have no backup plan, get smoked, not quit, and still pull off a knee bar to win. So I took it as he doesn't mentally quit. Like, he doesn't really have a backup plan. He can either win with grappling or he loses for the most part, but he never quits on the trying to win with grappling. So I thought that was honestly pretty impressive. I think everything leading up to that is embarrassing, but the fact that he was able to pull that out was pretty impressive. Jordan Leavitt, I think the biggest difference, I think both their striking sucks. The grappling is Jordan's probably a little better, or if not even. I think the biggest difference is Jordan has actual takedowns and can take it down, will take it down, will use it. The fear here, anytime you get 2 strikers, I'm about to touch on the monkey knife fight line, or anytime you get 2 grapplers, sometimes they just end up striking. I don't think that's going to happen here at all. I think they will grapple. It'll be grapple heavy, and I might play the less on this with monkey knife fight because I do think it'll be grappling heavy. I don't think it'll be, his takedowns are good, I'm not even going to try. So I think it's grappling heavy. I'm going to go to less. And before I go to you, Jacob, if you want to do a bet and place an actual bet like Dan is considering, go to wewantpicks.com/bets. And we have a deal with Bet Online. We have a couple of different promos and offerings depending on what you're looking for. So check that out. Click the link that makes the most sense for you. We'll just give you straight up $20 for signing up in one promo, or you can get a deposit match up to $1,000 in another. So check those out. Place a bet if you're confident. And Jacob, what are your thoughts?
I'll tell you what, Jordan has the biggest range in the UFC from what he looks like and what he think he fights like outside the cage when you see him and you talk to him compared to how he fights in the cage, because he's got kind of a flair for the dramatic, if you say. He does the splits after he wins. But when he's in the cage, he is an unbelievably aggressive, relentless grappler. He's not a guy that just body locks you and kind of trips you and drags you to the ground. He picks you up. One of his fights, he slammed the guy on his head, knocked him out. The other fight, he just picks you up, carries you across the ring. Sometimes he'll throw you across the ring. It doesn't matter. You think he's even grappling with Claudio. I think he's head and shoulders.
Well, wrestling, I see wrestling and grappling as different things. The wrestling, he definitely has the advantage, but just pure grappling, I think it's close.
I think he dominates no matter where this fight goes.
I agree with you, Jacob.
I think that he's just an unbelievable, relentless grappler. He doesn't look, I mean, when he doesn't look the part, but the second that bell rings, he just goes at it. He's got great transitions as well. The only thing that's kind of making me worried a little bit here is Claudio, Ultimate Fighter, Latin America. He beat Marcelo Rojo, who was a former Lock of the Week. He did.
How did he do it? Submission?
I can't remember how it. I couldn't find anything because it was an exhibition match for contender or whatever. So I couldn't find the finish, but it says he beat him in the contender series. That's the only thing that gave me a little bit of a pause. But still, I think Jordan absolutely dominates this fight. I actually have a bet on him to finish in the first round. I think he's going to get Claudio down early, get on top of him, and TKO him. Not even worry about submissions. Usually his submissions, too, where he's beating him and then submits the guy. So, I love Jordan in this matchup. I think if he gets one takedown and finishes the fight early, or like Dan says, just gets relentless takedown. So he's in my lineup. I have him to win the fight. I would put even money on that minus 200 as well.
Fun fact, Jacob. So we talk about Arkansas wrestling. So Jordan Leavitt placed third in Nevada in high school.
Nevada has decent wrestling.
Yeah.
No, Nevada actually does. I'm from Connecticut. We had a little kid, Joey Martin, won state opens, which is our version of state championships, the single best kid in the entire state. He won it twice, freshman year, sophomore year, then went to Nevada and didn't win there. He got like second or third. So it's a good wrestling state.
There you go.
He probably lost to Jordan Leavitt.
Yeah, he may have. So anyway, that's our breakdown of this fight. If you want to place a bet, go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. If you want to play Monkey Knife Fight and hit up that strike line, let us know in the comments if you're going more and more or less.
Oh, and I would go less on that for sure. Because even if it's a 3-round fight, it could turn into, it's either going to be Jordan dominates and finishes it, or it could be just a grappling match. So I agree with that.
Yep. So go to playmkf.com/WeWantPicks.
And for our bets, we're going to do 2 videos this week. One with the bets we have now, and then a bunch of lines and props, all the fun bets. A lot of them haven't come out yet, but they'll be available later in the week. So we'll do a second video with everything Friday or Saturday. So
yeah, our normal schedule, except we're adding some content tonight. So when this long video drops, you will also see a betting guide. Check that out. Next up at UFC Vegas 28, we have Sean Woodson versus Youssef Zalal. This is another solid matchup. This one I actually like quite a bit, and this is an interesting one because Youssef Zalal is the underdog. I feel like a lot of money's coming in on him. I'm confident in him as an underdog. But Sean Woodson does pose his own legitimate threats here. For some reason, I think the internet is very big on Youssef, and I would not be surprised. Check out the betting guide we drop tonight. We're dropping an early one and then our final one. I think that line moves big time. I think Youssef ends up the favorite before this week is over. At least that's my opinion. So this is a good matchup. Youssef Zalal has solid takedowns, very well-rounded, and he likes to stay on the outside with his striking. And then we have Sean Woodson, has very good boxing. He's very long, and he knows how to play that long game, and he's going to have a reach advantage in this fight. So we have 2 guys that like to keep the distance and fight that way. So this will be an interesting one to see what happens with the striking, who decides to close the distance and when. So I do think it's a close fight. But I think I am going to favor Zalal because he does have the submission threat. But striking-wise, Sean Woodson could absolutely keep that distance, use the range, use his reach, and just pick him apart from afar. But, Jacob, I'll go to you first. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I kind of disagree with Sean Woodson using his length. He's 6 foot. He's listed at 6'2". I've seen him listed at 6'3" at the 145 division. At that height and that length, you should like hardly, especially with the boxing he has, he should never get touched, but he does. Obviously he has the length, just natural length, but to actually use that length, I just don't see him actually using like a jab out there or using kicks to keep people at bay. And that could be an issue if Zalal fights an aggressive fight. He lost his last 2 fights. I think he's been a little bit too passive. I think after 2 losses, he comes out and he needs to be aggressive. He needs to close that distance on Woodson, which I think Woodson will allow him to do that. I see Woodson's hands kind of drop low late as well. Being that 6'3" frame, it is kind of hard to carry, that size for 3 total rounds. So, I really wanted to pick Zalal in this matchup. I just didn't quite see enough from him in the last 2 matchups. You mentioned his offensive grappling. If for some reason Sean Woodson, because Sean Woodson will grapple as well. So if for some reason he ends up on top, Zalal is as good as he is offensive grappling. I think he's just as bad defensive grappling on his back. He tends to stay there. So I really want to pick Zalal. I actually like Zalal a lot, and I think he can win if he's the aggressor in this fight. But I think Woodson finds a way to pull it out. But I'm not confident in either one to pick them. And you mentioned Sean Woodson, his boxing. He actually had his first boxing match, from what he said, at 8 years old. So that's how long he's been boxing, which is kind of crazy. So I think Woodson finds a way to win this fight, but I would not be surprised at all if Zalal finds a way as well to win. So
yeah, and before I go to you, Dan, I didn't place this bet because it was not available at like today. Today's Tuesday. I think Youssef Zalal at +3.5 is the perfect bet for this fight because I agree. It's going to be hard for him to close the distance. It's going to be hard for him to get a takedown. I mean, Sean Woodson has very good takedown defense, but when he does get taken down, he's got almost nothing to offer. And I think there's a big skill gap in the actual jiu-jitsu grappling here. So I think Youssef, a +3.5 bet, if you're not familiar with those, he basically just needs to win one single round, and the odds makers give you some points. So if it goes to the scorecards, you get some points. And if Youssef loses 2 rounds but wins 1, you win your bet. And I think with his takedowns and Dan's exhaustion and heavy yawning, I think that's a solid bet. So Dan, I'll let you wake yourself up. Why don't you walk us through your pick?
Oh man, I'm getting tired early in the show. It's not a good sign. We got a long ways to go. No, this is definitely an interesting fight. I'm all over the Zalal side of this one. I mean, I was looking at the odds and they jumped out at me as a little off right off the, before I even kind of started doing tape. I was like, really? Because I've seen Sean Woodson fight. He's definitely a unique body type to deal with. He's a very good striker. He's got a ton of boxing experience. I think he has like 50 amateur boxing fights. Throws a million punches, unorthodox style, switches stances. He's really, really good with his left hand. He's tricky. He'll use it as a jab in one stance, and then he'll switch stances and throw it as a straight left with power. Well, I say with power, but he throws everything stiff. I'll say that. He's not a very powerful striker. But, he lost his last fight, which I think was his UFC debut. And the reality is Jacob, you actually kind of said it well. I don't know if you realized it, but he's long. He
kind of stumbled into some good advice there, Jacob. Well done.
Yeah,
Even a broke clock is right twice a day, Jake.
you didn't quite articulate it the way I think you meant to. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, but no, you were 100% right. He's a long striker, but he only uses that length when people aren't pressuring him. Like when people are willing to stay at range, of course it's easy to be long. But when guys pressure him, he doesn't use his footwork. He doesn't use it defensively to evade. He got backed up against the cage a ton by Julian Arosa. Arosa just walked him down, and Woodson was landing, but he's not that powerful of a guy to where he's going to put you away unless he really catches you clean. And Arosa just walked him down and took the shots, took 3 shots to give him 1, stayed in his face. And I think Woodson didn't know what to do. I think he was used to a boxing match where guys can't grapple you, guys can't grab you, and that sort of pressure doesn't quite work. And I think he broke a little bit. In that 3rd round, he looked a little tired. He got subbed pretty quickly. So I think Sean Woodson's very good. I think he's another guy again that could be improving. In some of his earlier fights, I'll say his takedown defense did look solid to start, but by the second, third shot attempt, he did get taken down. I think he's got holes in his grappling game. I think his initial takedown defense will be good, but I think the pressure will break him. And Zalal, the way the interesting thing about this fight is Zalal is generally a lengthy striker, right? Like he's normally the guy that wants to fight from the outside. By contrast, he uses his footwork to kind of get in and out in addition to his length. He's not going to have the length in this fight. Obviously, it's 6'3" versus 5'10" or 5'11". But I think for Zalal to win this fight, it comes down to game plan. He needs to get rid of his normal game plan, switch it up, and be 100% aggressive. Use shots to get in, close the distance, and shoot takedowns relentlessly. If he does that, I think he's got the cardio, the conditioning, the skills to win this fight. But he's really got to have that game plan. Just never give up on takedowns and keep going for it. I think his biggest attribute in this fight, coupled with a good game plan, is his cardio. He's the sort of guy that his last fight he took on a week's notice, and he didn't win the fight, but he was in good shape for 3 rounds. So he always talks about his conditioning and how he's always in shape. He trains at altitude. So I think he's got a full camp on this one. I'm hoping he did some wrestling in between his last fight and this one. I think if he did, he's going to win this fight. He's going to pressure forward, go for takedowns, mix up the punches, walk through Woodson. I will say I think Woodson's going to look good early and defend a couple takedowns, but if Zalal sticks to him, I think he will get the takedown and he'll break him eventually. So I've got Zalal in this fight for $7,400. I think he's definitely worth it in DraftKings. I think this line's a little off, to be honest. I think Woodson's just a little green and good boxer, good striker, but I don't know that he's a complete fighter just yet. So I'm going with Zalal across the board.
Yeah, and I think I would not be surprised if this line flips. I really wouldn't. So
I'm high on Zalal too, because when I first saw Zalal and then I saw Underdog, I said lock of the week. And then I was watching his last couple fights, and he talked myself out of it just with his non-aggression. Like I agree, Dan. If he's aggressive, he wins this fight.
He's got to have the right game plan. If he tries to fight the point match, against Woodson, he's going to get pieced up. But I mean, I gotta imagine you can't go into this fight with that game plan. It would just be foolish.
Yeah, so we'll see. It is an interesting fight. If you want to get in on this line early, go to wewantpicks.com/bets. We have a deal with Bet Online. We have a bunch of options for you to jump in there. Hit this line now because I think it's going to move in the wrong direction if you're looking to put some money on Zalal. And before we move on, Monkey Knife Fight, if you want to triple your money, all you have to do is pick more or less on the total strikes in the fight. I am going less on Woodson, more on Zalal. I think Zalal's pressure, forward movement, if he gets on top, the busyness, there's no way Sean Woodson's going to get off 92.5 strikes, not from the outside, not with Zalal looking for a takedown. So I'm going less on Woodson, more on Zalal, and I will triple my money at playmkf.com/wewantpicks. Next up at UFC Vegas 28, we have Manon Fiorot versus Maryna Moroz. And this is an awesome fight because Manon Fiorot beat one of Jacob's lock of the weeks, the very first lock of the week ever. Before Jacob really took it seriously, Manon Fiorot she killed it before it almost became a thing. So thank God Jacob bounced back. He put his big boy pants on. He said, you know what? I'm going to take this seriously. And now here we go. Manon Fiorot with her second fight in the UFC versus Maryna Moroz, who's 10-3. This is an interesting fight. The strike line.
Size 26, big boy pants. Is that what they're?
Yes, 26 waist. Absolutely. And then he has the belt to tighten him up. But our girl, Maryna, moved to American Top Team, Dan. You're an American Top Team guy. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but actually that did, I don't want to say worry me, but I thought Manon was going to be the lock here. Then I saw the American Top Team thing. I watched some film, and it's like, okay, well, this is interesting because she's taking her career pretty seriously now. She moved to a giant camp. She's putting in the time, getting in the looks. So it may be a little closer now. I still think Manon probably wins this fight, but the most intriguing thing about this right now to me is that monkey knife fight significant strike line. So we'll touch on that in a minute. Jacob, I'll let you go first. Let it out of your system. I don't know if you still have a grudge or what your thoughts are here.
Yeah, you did mention it. She did beat the inaugural lock of the week. And rewatching that fight, I forgot. I forgot that the only reason that Victoria Leonardo lost that fight was because she had her hair in these weird braids. And after the first exchange, they came out, and the rest of the fight, she's like blowing her hair. She's like trying to get her hair out of her face, getting hit, hair out of her face. So technically, I'm taking that loss away. I honestly am taking that loss away because that's not on her. That's like wardrobe malfunction type stuff. So that lock of the week, it now turns into my first like that's a non. I'm not gonna take the win, but I probably should take the win. But it's going to turn to a non-contest on that lock of the week. So that's another one that we wrote from a loss to a non-contest.
I'm reading my notes on this fight right now. Absolutely dominated, striking clinic. Landed everything.
But did you see the hair, Dan? I mean, it's easy. Okay, if I put a blindfold on you, Dan, what's going to happen? You know, I'm gonna piece you up. I'm gonna tear you down.
But
all
you could put a blindfold and tie my hands up, and you would still lose.
I'm gonna tear you up. It's gonna be the exact same thing. She was basically blindfolded the whole fight. So that lock of the week turns to a no contest. So if you guys are watching this, you can keep in track. Make sure you switch that on your notepads. No contest. And then we go to Moroz, like you mentioned, ATT. And here's the biggest thing, guys. Here is the biggest thing that you have to remember. Moroz is the women's boxing coach for the Ukraine Olympic team. The coach. And as we know, this is very well known. This isn't from me. I'm not going to talk.
Do I have to make another shirt? Ukraine.
It's very well known that Ukrainian boxing is one of the best boxing countries in the world. I think we all know that. I mean, everyone knows that. I already knew that. So when I saw that she is the head coach of the women's Ukrainian boxing team, you know what I said? And that she's going up against Manon? She's the lock of the week. She is the lock of the week. I'm getting my revenge. I told you guys before that when I pick my lock of the week, it's not so much who I pick, but it's who I pick against. There's a reason I picked against Manon in the first fight. She's going to lose this fight. She's not that good. She's a decent striker. She's a little too loopy. Moroz is just a precision striker. She can grapple as well. She's at ATT now. She's going to win the fight. It's going to be lock of the week. This is for 6 in a row, I believe, if my count is correct. I think this is for 6 in a row, lock of the week, Moroz.
I love it. Right. If my count is correct.
Like, yeah. We just
Ukrainian boxing.
So we'll just let the if my count is correct slide. So listen, I think Moroz is a very good striker. She has solid volume. The move to ATT tells me a lot. I don't know how much she could have improved in that amount of time, but it tells me a lot about her, where she is mentally and how serious she's taking her career, which is great. My problem with Moroz is she gets hit, and Manon hits like a truck.
Yeah, she hits like a truck when someone's blindfolded.
So that's my problem is Moroz does get hit. She moves well. She hates being in the pocket because that's when she gets touched up. I think Manon's power is going to be an issue. Manon's my pick. She's a killer striker, dude. She has like killer instinct and actual stoppage power. And in this division, that's hard to come by. She hunts for the knockout. She won't stop until she gets it. And she's got good fight IQ. As soon as she gets taken down in the fights that she has been taken down, immediately scrambles back up, makes the person pay for that. I like Manon in this fight. Before I go to you, Dan, the strike line is super interesting. I am going less on both. That is a ton of strikes. And I get it. They're both active strikers. I just think Manon's power will slow down Moroz, and Moroz will avoid the pocket and try to stay outside, which will reduce the strike. So I'm going less on this strike line. So Daniel, if you want to triple your money, what strike line are you going?
It's funny. I feel like these strike lines should almost be swapped. I feel like less might be a good play here. just because I have a feeling this one might get stopped. I think both are very good, and I'll break down the fight in a second. But I don't know. I'm in between less. I'm less on Manon Fiorot 108. That's for sure. And if anything, I would be more. If this fight goes to a decision, I would do less more because Maryna Moroz throws a ton of volume. You said solid volume. She throws a ton of volume.
That's what Ukraine's known for, is volume
Right.
strikers.
Ukrainian boxing, I mean, they're known
volume.
200 punches per minute. So, I mean, all kidding aside, Jacob is right. Her boxing is very, very good. She's at ATT now. I'm sure she's improving rapidly down at that gym. They've got so many good training partners.
If she needs any more, Dan, you know where to go. Let me know.
You haven't messaged her on Twitter or anything yet?
Not yet. This is a busy week. I was on vacation. I had women all weekend. That's very, very busy.
Family reunion, your mom, your grandma, your aunt.
They were all else. Grandma's dead.
Oh, jeez. I'm sorry. That was awkward.
Both of them.
Anyways, moving along. Moroz is very good. This is going to be a fight that's going to be interesting because I think it's one of those fights where we're going to find out if Fiorot is the real deal or not, right? Like, let's put, she's 1-0 in the UFC. The caliber of fighter she's fought so far compared to Moroz and just UFC level experience, she hasn't quite done it yet. She's looked amazing. I'll give you that. She's looked unbelievable. Her last fight, she looked awesome. As Jacob said, her opponent had a blindfold around her.
Well, but to be serious, she was outstriking a grappler who couldn't get the takedown, right? Victoria Leonardo is a grappler who was just kind of like trying to zombie towards her, like Ben Askren to like grab a hold of her. And she did her part. She did what she needed to do, but I mean, it wasn't like definitely not a high level striker like Ukrainian boxing legend Moroz.
Right. That's a very good point. The way I kind of like chalked it up is, especially in this division, this women's division, sometimes when you are that much more of a superior athlete than your opponent, it's very easy to look like a superstar. It's always easy to look like you're unbelievably good when you're the hammer. But we're going to find out who you really are when you have to be the nail for a few minutes in a fight. And I think as she continues to get tougher opponents, Moroz being the first test, I think we're going to find out how she reacts in that situation. Because I don't think Fiorot is going to walk through Moroz. I think it's going to be a tough fight. Moroz is very good. She's skilled, exceptional boxing. So I think we're going to find out how good Fiorot is and if she can win a 3-round fight that's back and forth. Because so far she's kind of had her way with everyone she's fought. And again, when you're doing that, it's easy to look like a superstar. But the last fight against Leonardo, I think, was a very good matchup for her. And Moroz, I mean, to be honest, she showed in her recent fight, she's got a couple takedowns in her back pocket. I'm sure she's working on that. So there's some things skill-wise that we may have not seen from her yet that she might pull out of her back pocket in this fight. On top of the boxing, and forget about the boxing, the volume alone is tough to deal with. It's like Nate Diaz, on speed. It's just fast, stiff punches, relentless. She's tough. She can take a shot. So I think this is going to be an interesting fight. I think it's a great play in Monkey Knife Fight or in DraftKings at $7,700 because if Fiorot doesn't get a finish early, no matter what happens in this fight, Moroz is going to land a ton of volume for $7,700. So I think it's going to be a good fight, ton of action. And I think it's going to be a fight where we find out what Fiorot is made out of and if we know that Maryna Moroz is ready to go to the next level. I'm picking Moroz. I think she's going to box her up and take over the fight as the rounds, midway through the second, third round. I think she's going to start piecing her up.
Yeah, I think you're right with, I think Manon is going to win just because of the power. I think the power is going to be an issue. It's going to wear on Moroz over time. If when Moroz goes in the pocket,
you can't hit what you can't see.
She'll feel it. But I do think you're right. I think Moroz, it's at that price, is probably a good play in DraftKings because no matter what, there's going to be a lot of volume there. Next up at UFC Vegas 28, we have Alan Patrick versus Mason
And
Jones.
before you say anything, that's the graphic that the UFC has on their website. It's a little, I don't know what's going on.
It's all pixelated.
Yeah, it's weird. I looked and that's just what they have. He's gonna get a new picture taken this week in the Venom stuff, so that'll hopefully fix. But I saw him I was just waiting for you to say, and our graphics guy with a great graphic here.
Yeah, it looks like a screenshot from a Nintendo.
Yeah.
Very pixelated. Well, anyway, he may not get a new graphic this week because I think he's going to get smoked and maybe cut, because I think Mason Jones is a buzzsaw in this fight. We have a grappler heavy Alan Patrick. He charges forward, giant punches to get takedowns, just windmill punches almost. And then we have Mason Jones, who is an aggressive striker with nice boxing. And if he does get taken down, he pops right back up to his feet. He immediately starts working and makes people pay. I think Mason Jones will win by stoppage. I put a bet on Mason Jones winning. And I did that by going to wewantpicks.com/bets. I grabbed my favorite promo code for Bet Online. I got my free money and I placed that bet. And that's not just a plug. I'm serious. I think Mason Jones wins this fight, wins it in a big way. He's in my DraftKings lineup. I went across the board on Mason Jones, and I'm going less on the Monkey Knife Fight significant strike line, total strike line, because I think there's a stoppage. I think Mason Jones stops him, so no way he gets to 100. And 48.5 is hard to do if you just wing wild punches to get takedowns but get stopped somewhere along the way. So I'm very heavy, but keep watching this video because I might be wrong. Dan, what are your thoughts?
9,500, huh, for Mason Jones. I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I think he's going to win the fight, but 9,500.
It's a lot of money.
He's got to definitely get a first-round stoppage. Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting fight because I looked at the line. I was like, okay, wow, this looks like a blowout. And I'm like, his name is, I think you say Alon Jones. I don't know if you called him Alan. I think you called him a few names in the last couple of minutes.
Alan Patrick. You're using the wrong last name.
Alan Pixel.
That's right.
Alan Pixel.
I made fun of you for how you pronounced his first name, and I just made up a new last name. That's pretty bad. Alon Patrick. Aaron. He's you look up his record. The guy's been in the UFC since 2013, but he's had huge stretches of inactivity. I think it was injuries. I don't know exactly what it was, but he would fight 1 year and then he wouldn't fight for 2 years. Then he'd fight. So I went back and watched some tape, and you kind of nailed it in his last fight. He came bum rushing forward with wild shots, relentless on the. I mean, he was knocking himself off his feet sometimes with his punches, trying to get takedowns. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be, he looked like he had some skills there, but I was like, man, with that game plan, it's going to be a tough fight against anybody at a high level. But if you go back only 2 fights ago, but it was in 2018, he fought much more controlled. He seemed much more comfortable striking. He fought Holtzman, who got the better of him striking and eventually got the finish. But he just looked like a more composed fighter. He looked like he had a lot of skills. I was kind of doing some research on him. The guy's got good jiu-jitsu. The striking I saw in the fight against Holtzman was good. It wasn't good enough against Holtzman, who's a very, very good striker. But I think he has more skills than his record indicates, the odds indicate, and really kind of his last performance showed. But with that being said, he's fighting an absolute tough opponent in Mason Jones. So Mason Jones is a good striker. He trains at Team Alpha Male. Apparently has a judo background too, so that took away kind of my hesitancy about the wrestling from Patrick. But his first loss ever was his last fight against Mike Davis, who's another unbelievably good striker. I don't know if you guys watched that fight, but man, that was an unbelievable fight. The back and forth exchanges, they were rocking each other. And Mike Davis, that guy is a legitimate boxer who hits hard.
When you talk next level strikers, that's Mike Davis. Yeah,
dude. And Mason Jones took every shot he threw at him. He ate it, and he came back countering. So he is skilled. He's tough. He's young. He looks like he's motivated. I think he was angry after that fight. He said that was I'm not going to lose again after that. So he's one of those guys that I think he's going to show up hungry and motivated for this fight. And yeah, I think Patrick does have some skills, for some sort of Hail Mary something, but I'm not really too worried about it. I think Mason Jones is going to take anything Elon Patrick throws his way and just beat him up and just put it on him. So I'm going with the younger, better shape, just hungrier, tougher fighter in Mason Jones. I think he will get a stoppage. I don't think it'll come right away. I think it'll be, second round, third round, when Patrick starts realizing like, oh man, this kid is not going anywhere and he is just launching bombs at me. And I think Patrick will be like, all right, this is enough. And Mason Jones is going to put him away. So I'm not playing for DraftKings. $9,500 is a lot. And there's some other spots I like in the card better. But yeah, he should win. Monkey knife fight. I'm gonna go with less. I think. I don't.
Yeah,
think
that's the line.
Patrick's
The line I'm gonna play too. Less. Because I think there's a stoppage. That's why it's less. If Allen was like can't get finished, we'll stick in it to the end. I would go less more, but I think he does get finished. Jacob, do you disagree with anything?
No, there's actually two young kids on this, and I can say kids now because I'm an old guy. There's two young kids on this card that are bouncing back, coming off their first loss of their career, so they're undefeated. And after the first loss is their next fight, and Mason Jones is one of them. And Dan nailed it. You kind of worry with those young guys what happens after that first loss. Do they say, that was a fluke, and they start making excuses and they keep doing what they've been doing? Or they do what Mason Jones did, and he owned up to it, said, no excuses, I'm going to get better, and I'm going to be one of the best in the division. And that's the stuff you love to hear. And I wanted to put him in my lineup so bad because I do think he dominates his fight. The only thing that does worry me is in that fight, it is Mike Davis, but he did get hit. And if he gets hit by Patrick, it's not going to be good. You can only eat so many of those shots that Patrick throws. So that was the only thing that gave me a little bit of hesitancy, especially for the 9,500. I couldn't find a spot in my lineup, but he shouldn't have any issues in this fight. He should dominate this fight with the striking. And if it goes to the ground, he can use his jiu-jitsu as well. So I love him in this fight. I just, that $9,500, you guys already mentioned it a couple of times. It just seems like a touch too much for him. So
what are you playing with Monkey Knife Fight?
I would definitely go less for Mason Jones, but that Patrick line is tough because I think I would probably go less, but I could see this definitely going more and more because Mason will throw in volume, and I can see Patrick following in that pass. So I'd probably go less.
Yeah, I think we're all going to go less. We're all heavy on Mason Jones. If you want to triple your money, go to playmkf.com/WeWantPicks. Use promo code WWP, and they'll instantly match your deposit. Deposit $20. They'll give you a free $20. Use the free money. Play less on this line. You'll triple it, and then you have all sorts of free money to play with in the future. So this will be what, Daniel?
No, I was going to say
I'm in the middle of my whole thing.
I
have
know,
my
I'm sorry, Mr.
voice.
Promo.
I'm like,
I got it.
Jesus.
Use code WWP.
WWP. Call 1-800.
WW.
I thought it was our show. I'm happy to. Okay.
Go
ahead,
longer you
Dan.
live in Texas because it started. Use code WWP.
Go,
It's like
Dan.
the
What?
Howard Stern show. WFAN. No, I was just going to say, Elon Patrick's last fight against Bobby Green was coming off, his typical 2-year layoff. And I think he's, 37 years old now? He got beat up in the fight, but that was when, I don't know if you remember, Bobby Green was, on the rise and, going on a run. And, wow, Bobby Green's making a comeback. And he got dominated in the fight, but he hung tough and didn't look in terrible shape for a 37-year-old guy that went into a 3-round fight against Bobby Green. So I don't know. I feel like he can build on that a little bit. I still think he's going to lose, but I don't know. I don't think he's going to get smoked. I'm looking at my notes now, and I'm like, I'm surprised that he survived that fight against Bobby Green. I think he's a little tougher than people give him credit for.
All right. Well, thanks for that.
Cool.
Yeah, awesome.
Cool.
Awesome insight. Guys, I'm trying to get going here. Next.
Nice sweatshirt. You're not going to talk about your sweatshirt?
It was a birthday gift for my wife. It's a nice We Want Picks sweatshirt, and you can get it at shop.wewantpicks.com.
Yeah, sure.
Next up at UFC Vegas 28, we have Francisco Trinaldo versus Muslim Salikhov. And this is the most interesting fight of the entire card for me because Francisco Trinaldo is amazing everywhere. He's got a head like a rock. He hits like he has rocks in his hands. He has wrestling. He has grappling. He's got decent striking. He's good everywhere, but he's almost 40-something. Is he 40-something? Is he almost 40-something?
42.
Yeah, he's 40-something years old. I made that mistake with Jacare. I'm done with 40-year-olds. I'm done with them. So Francisco Trinaldo, in all seriousness, is like everything you would ever want out of a fighter. He's just getting a little old. I don't know what the hell Dan's smiling at right now. But where Salikhov...
You said you were done with 40-year-olds.
Okay. Don't tell my wife.
Jacob.
Salikhov should be the much bigger guy here. What's interesting to notice, Francisco Trinaldo spent his whole career at 155. This is his second fight at 170, I think. It's definitely a fight at 170. I don't know if it's his first or his second. So Salikhov should be much bigger. Every single strike that Salikhov throws and everything is a significant strike. And he has really good takedown defense, and I think that's going to be a problem. I think he's going to be much bigger. That will wear on Francisco. Francisco's striking and power won't really matter anymore. So I think Salikhov wins this fight. I think the odds might be a little far with how ridiculously tough Trinaldo is, but I think Salikhov is bigger. He hits harder, and he has really good wrestling takedown defense, and that's a problem for Trinaldo across the board. Jacob, what do your duck lips say?
Yeah, when I was these duck lips make me a lot of money on Instagram. When I was watching tape on Muslim, I'm watching these fights and I'm scrolling down the comments because I like to see what other people have to say, and they're like, "Oh, this guy's a killer. He's the next big thing." And he did have a span there where he had, I think it's 10 straight first round finishes, which is pretty crazy. Then he got to the UFC and lost, and then you watch some of his newer fights, and it's like I just don't see it like this killer guy. I mean, he's very good. I mean, he's winning the fights, but I just don't see this killer guy. You match that you mentioned with Francisco's toughness. The guy's 42 years old. He's 26-7, so that's got to be over 100 fights. He's never been knocked out. He's never been knocked out. That's crazy to never be KO'd once. So, you know, this is going to be one of those fights that I think he's on like a little streak now. Let's see, he's on a 3-fight winning streak. So I think they gave him this fight to figure out, like, are you really still good, or are you like, is this kind of a fluke thing? Because some of these older guys had these like fluke kind of streaks. So I think this is one of those fights where, like, okay, if you beat Muslim, then hell, we'll maybe give you a top 15 guy. I don't know. I think he wins the fight. I put him in my DraftKings lineup. I think he's tough enough to win the fight. I didn't see enough from Muslim in his striking or his grappling to think that he's just like this dominant fighter, especially for $9,100. I see this more as like a $8,200 to $7,800 matchup. So if I see $7,800 value in Francisco at $7,100, I'd be stupid not to put him in my lineup. So, you know, as a guy that's never been finished, and his combos too, when he throws combos, he doesn't throw regular combinations like other people. He throws like what I described in my notes as power combos. Everything is moving forward as he's throwing. And if he catches Muslim, I mean, Muslim will go down. So I have Francisco in my lineup, and I think he wins this fight.
Listen, I have Muslim winning because of the size difference and the wrestling defense, but every single thing you said is also accurate. This is a really interesting fight. This is a plus 3.5 bet fight for sure. And I would put it on Trinaldo because I think Muslim wins. So I would do a plus 3.5 bet on Trinaldo. If you don't know what that is, basically you total up the judges' scorecards, you give some points to somebody, and then that changes the total. So the math works out. You only need to win one round on all 3 judges' scorecards, and then even the loser of the fight in real life will win you the bet. So I think that's a solid bet here because Trinaldo is very good, and I don't think he'll get finished. He's old. He's definitely old, but I don't think he'll get finished. I do think he loses, though. But, Dan, what are your thoughts? And also, weigh in on the significant strike line because 19.5 is a very low number.
More on the strike line for sure. Yeah, more on the strike line all day. The only thing I think that would prevent that would be if Trinaldo landed a bomb early. But man, this is a fight that I'm like, I don't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole on anything. Bets,
I got one you can
DraftKings.
use.
The one you use to grab cups off the top shelf.
Not quite, Angelo. Not quite.
Right. You don't quite get the cup still. You need an 11 footer. Oh, that was good. Yeah, I don't know. Trinaldo is one of those guys. Angela, well, with the exception of Glover, I think I may also be done betting on 41, 42-year-olds.
It's the year of the 40-some-year-olds. We saw Mickelson. We saw Elio Castroneves.
We saw Jacare.
No, we saw Tom Brady. We saw Mickelson. We saw Elio Castroneves just won the Indy 500, the greatest spectacle in the history of the world, the greatest sporting event ever.
Floyd Mayweather should win.
Oh God! If
Tyrone Woodley
loses. Yeah. We got a lot of circus acts coming up. We're gonna do some videos for those, by the way. We got to do some breakdowns.
We got Nick. Nick's kind of old, right? He's gonna dominate.
Well,
Nick's like
what,
35.
Yeah. He's older than me.
All right, Dan, do your breakdown. People
okay. I'm going to keep this one simple. I mean, Trinaldo is very good. I think he's live in this fight. By the way, he's 42, which is old. He has not looked as old as he is in any of his fights. And I keep watching him like, when is he going to look like he's 42? So I don't know if this is going to be the fight. Probably won't be, but has me too nervous to bet on it. And Salikhov is not young either. He's 36, so he's definitely not old, but he's not like a 23-year-old, 25-year-old, up and coming, hungry superstar. So, I think there is value at the 7,100 on Trinaldo for sure. I'm staying away from it. Other than monkey knife fights, I'm going to do more faux show. Other than that, I think Salikhov's going to win the fight. I think he'll win a decision.
My only problem with Trinaldo, so I do think Trinaldo's live. My problem with Trinaldo in DraftKings is people give me a hard time. He's feast or famine. He's either going to get you and knock you out, or he's going to get pieced up. Like he's not going to out. There's no way there's more volume than Salikhov. He's not going to get all the takedowns that you expect. Like, I don't know. I don't think
two of his last three wins were decision wins.
I know. I just this matchup specifically, Salikhov's takedown defense is so good that I think he's gonna have a hard time with it. So either way, it's a fun fight. It sounds like Dan's gonna avoid betting on it. I like a 3.5 bet. So if you want, go to wewantpicks.com/bets, grab the promo that you like, and grab one of those 3.5 bets. I do like those a lot.
It might not be a bad bet. Have you gotten online on it yet or no?
I don't know if it was available.
I literally just checked. It's not up yet.
Yeah, it's so funny how I did get some 3.5 bets in, but there was a bunch that
videos now.
There was a bunch that weren't available yet.
Waiting to check out our breakdown. Then
we moved the market.
That's Angelo. That's not a bad bet, especially plus 225. You'll probably get plus 130 ish. I would think for
it's plus money, and then even if he wins on his own, you hit your bet, and if he loses but wins one round, you hit your bet. So either way, that'll be my play once that's available. We'll see what those look like, but I will also go more on Monkey Knife Fight 40. I'm going to go more on Monkey Knife Fight. It is total strikes, not significant strikes. Next up at UFC Vegas 28, we have Tanner Boser versus Ilir Latifi. This, I literally want to stop saying this is an interesting one, but this is an interesting fight because Ilir Latifi was a light heavyweight, very good wrestler.
Just real quick, it reminded me who you were doing. Dana went on Twitter now. Every fight that comes up for the fight card, he always says, "This is the fight I was telling you about." That's like your thing. Every single fight, he's always like, "This is the one I was telling you about. This is the one." Every single fight. So this is an interesting fight.
It is interesting. They're all interesting.
Super interesting
for different reasons. But I actually
also tricky.
This one's It is tricky. I've tried
He
not
can't
to
even
say
say it in a joking manner because the way he says it just comes out so naturally that he still says it the same way.
I don't know why Jacob's like dancing and singing. This is ridiculous, dude.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Nobody
I'm
knows.
thinking the tricky song is tricky.
Okay, stop. So anyway, Latifi was a light heavyweight, very good wrestler. He's moved up to heavyweight. So he's actually not a big person. I think he can make light heavyweight now. So he's not a big dude. And we saw that when he fought Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis is a heavyweight, a very big heavyweight. And Latifi struggled. He did take Derek Lewis down, but you're supposed to take Derek Lewis down easily. And he struggled with it. He didn't do anything when he was on top. So, it sort of showed the size difference there. Tanner Boser is a heavyweight. He's a big dude, and he's shockingly light on his feet. He moves around really well. He has nice boxing, nice leg kicks, and I think Latifi's going to struggle with the size and the movement of Tanner Boser because he does move quite a bit. And what I will say here is lately we've seen a lot of these wrestlers lose decisions even when they had some effective wrestling. So I think this is one of those fights where I'm going to lean into that. Even if Latifi gets some takedowns, even if Latifi holds Tanner Boser against the cage, I don't think the judges will give it to him. For whatever reason, the last 6 months, these judges don't care about takedowns as much unless you really dominate in that position. And I don't think Latifi will dominate in a wrestling position or a clinch position. So I think Tanner Boser's a play here because of his movement, his size, and I think his leg kicks will be a big deal here. But Jacob, I'll go to you again. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, Latifi, you mentioned his heavyweight debut was against Derek Lewis. So the good news is this isn't Derek Lewis. The bad news is, and you nailed it, that this is kind of like almost the exact opposite of Derek Lewis in terms of, Derek Lewis is an athlete, but he doesn't use like his side-to-side athleticism. He just kind of slowly marches forward. And Latifi obviously had an issue with that because of the power. But Tanner Boser is so, I have him listed as a slick heavyweight. He's one of those kind of not undersized heavyweights, but a little bit lighter. We'll throw some good combos, throw some kicks. And Latifi, I just don't see enough of him in his striking, in his grappling. He should be able to get this fight on the ground and dominate is what he should do. But I just think that Tanner is going to be a little too sharp in his striking to be able to avoid some of those shots, be precision with his striking. And I was looking actually to put Tanner in my lineup. It didn't work out, but that's how confident I am in him winning this fight. So, the interesting part too, against his last fight against Orlowski, he lost a decision. But the weird part about this is each judge gave him a round on one of the scorecards. Does that make sense? So he scored a round on one judge's scorecard for the first round, and then another judge gave him the second round, and another judge gave him the third round. So opposite judges gave him each a round. So
hold on, break that down one more time for me.
So he would have won a.
I'm joking.
I'm not breaking it down for you. He would have won that plus 3.5 bet. He got three judges gave him a round, so he would have won that.
The most unique way to win it,
because you usually just count on winning one round, but you just need three judges to give you 10 points.
Yeah.
So
it's not like and that's a fantastic striker in Orlowski. I mean, we've all talked about how good Orlowski even as an older guy, but we mentioned the older guys are dominating these days. So to do that,
he's not quite 40.
Yeah.
Sorry.
To do that well against, a striker like that, I think says a lot. So, and Latifi definitely is not that level of striker. So,
and I meant to say Ilir Latifi's not quite 40. He's not at that cutoff yet. So anyway, Daniel, go ahead and give us your 38-minute breakdown.
All right, let's start in this one nice slow. So Tanner Boser was born in, how old is he? 40? No.
Let's start with how his parents met.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a great story. Let me get started. Now, I think this one's simple. I think this is a true heavyweight versus someone who's not a true heavyweight. Latifi's coming off, I think, a 3-fight losing skid. Tanner Boser, like you said, he's a more athletic heavyweight. And Latifi lost to Derek Lewis. And if your game plan is wrestling against Derek Lewis and you can't pull it off,
That was the funny part where because Derek Lewis, because he had control in Derek Lewis, and then Derek Lewis literally was like, I think I'm just gonna stand up, and literally just no technique, just got to a knee and stood up, and Latifi was like trying to like just hold him down, and just can't hold him down.
I was literally trying to say that to me shows that he's undersized. You know what I mean? Like if you're a heavyweight wrestler and you get Derek Lewis down, you probably should be able to keep him down.
That's like me. It's like me and Angelo. I can take Angelo down whenever I want. Just keeping him down is an issue. So,
well, I mean, I don't know about that. Angelo, once he's on his back,
like a turtle.
I'm gonna call him that. Help! He's stuck. You can't leave him there. He'll be there for the weekend.
Slug on a rock.
I should just remove you from this. This new software makes it so easy. I click one button and you're gone, Dan. So continue.
All right.
You go with Tanner Boner. He's Boser. He's a heavy
Boner. Whoa.
He's a heavyweight, true heavyweight.
Yeah. True heavyweight, good footwork, athletic, and I think he's gonna. If he does get taken down, he'll get back up. He'll probably avoid most of the takedowns, land a bunch of strikes, and I think he'll win the fight, maybe by TKO.
You have any bets?
And Tanner Boser hasn't been KO'd since 2015. Just a quick fact.
Yeah. I'm going to go more.
Yeah, I like
and if I were to bet,
save it for the betting guide. Don't give away the secret sauce.
Sorry.
Save it for the betting guide.
You're very right.
With Monkey Knife Fight, I think this is the Latifi line is really good. I think it's definitely more for Tanner Boser. 27.5. I'm going to go more and more here as well.
What's funny is I'm just looking at the stats here because I wanted to see Latifi's strikes for the Derek Lewis fight. He had 62 total strikes landed. Derek Lewis won that fight with 27 total strikes landed.
Wow, look at that. Uh-oh. So maybe I go more or less.
Why?
What?
Because Derek Lewis only landed 27 and he won. I don't know if Latifi will land more than 27 in a loss. What's the problem here?
Now say that. Explain.
Yeah,
that
please.
slowly.
Actually, I was going to let that go, but I just want to hear you explain that one more time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Derek Lewis only landed 27 strikes in a full decision win.
Yep.
Okay.
And if you play more and more here, that means you need Latifi to land more than 27, and we know he's going to lose in a loss. Not going to happen. What is the problem? What are you missing? This is easy.
First of all, you just said he's going to lose in a loss, but besides that, what your point is that because Derek Lewis,
I just said I think more and more is the play, and then I heard that stat, and it's like, man, maybe I need to go less on Latifi. I'm going less on Latifi, and I'm moving on. We're moving on.
Strikes in the loss.
What?
How many strikes did Latifi have?
He had 67 when he won. Against.
I thought you said he lost to Derek Lewis.
Oh no, he lost to Derek Lewis. Yeah.
How many strikes did he have?
He had 67.
Yes.
62. Sorry, 62.
He had 62 strikes against Derek Lewis in a loss, and you said, "Oh man, I
listen. I'm moving on. We're moving on.
Yeah, I bet.
It's
I don't like
a good move.
Look, he's making notes to edit all this out. Look at him.
Oh,
I'm not gonna edit it. No, I'll leave it. The new software. I'm gonna leave.
I'm gonna rewatch it just to try to really understand where
it made logical. It made logical sense. I think Latifi loses, and I don't know if he'll do more than 27.5. I think he loses.
He threw 67 in the loss.
Derek Lewis at 27.
That's a different fight. He got the takedowns. He was on top.
You're just like making random stuff up now.
I gotta go. I gotta go. We're moving on to the next fight. Next up at UFC Vegas 28, we have Montana De La Rosa versus Ariane Lipski, and I think the odds are correct here. So I think Montana, she moved her training camp to Elevation training camp. So again, we see these people move to these more successful gyms. To me, I know you guys, you look at all the improvements that's going to happen. That's why they move. To me, it says a lot about how serious they take their career. So I think she's very serious about her career. And I think that move shows that, which is a big deal. She's a solid grappling with real wrestling. She has actual wrestling. She wrestled in school. And this is similar, not as good as Carla Esparza, but similar to the narrative I had with Carla Esparza, where this isn't an MMA fighter who learned how to wrestle. This is a wrestler who transitioned. And in the women's division, that's rare, right? To see the long-standing wrestlers make that transition. Her striking is just okay, but she's so tough and so durable and has that wrestling that she makes up for any gaps in the striking. And then we have Ariane Lipski. If it stays on its feet, she should win. She's the better striker. And she is at American Top Team now as well. This is the second fighter we broke down today that moved her camp to American Top Team. So she's definitely going to improve. It also tells me she's taking her career very seriously. This is going to be grappler versus striker. If it stays striking, Lipski wins. If we go the grappling route, De La Rosa wins. Daniel, what do you think?
Dan, did you make note of that, please? She's at ATT now. Go ahead.
You know where I'm going no matter what here. Listen, I think this is going to be a good fight. And like you said, it's wrestler versus striker. I think Lipski down on ATT now I'm sure has been improving. So I'm rolling with her no matter what. I'm going to take her at the plus odds and count on her being able to keep this fight standing. But I totally understand if people think De La Rosa's wrestling is going to be enough to get it done. I think it's a tough fight across the board. And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I'm very intrigued to see the improvements Lipski's made, because if she can keep it standing, she'll win on the feet. But man, like you said, De La Rosa was a wrestler first, right? She's not learning wrestling on the job. And that's usually, especially in the women's division, that's a tough thing to deal with. So I'm always rolling with ATT. I got Lipski, but not touching it for DraftKings, not touching it for bets. And for striking, I'll go with, I'm going to go with less.
Yeah, the strike line's interesting because if it stays standing the whole time, Lipski, I think, blows past 51.5. But if it goes to the ground, De La Rosa should get to the 88. So that is.
I think Lipski will get taken down. I mean, De La Rosa is just too good of a wrestler. The question is can she get up?
Yeah.
Can she make De La Rosa work and have to have those striking exchanges? If she can do that, she's got a chance to win this fight.
Yep, and make her pay. Make her pay early on. So, Jacob, what are your thoughts here? How do you see this fight going?
I have a lot of thoughts of Ariane Lipski. As far as fighting goes, with Montana De La Rosa, this is how good Vivi is. My former lock of the week, who won her fight.
Dude, move on.
She beat Montana De La Rosa. Montana De La Rosa now is a $9,300 fighter against a very good fighter in Ariane. So how good is Vivi that she beat Montana De La Rosa? And Montana De La Rosa is a big favorite, as she is. Like you mentioned, her wrestling, I think she should win this fight. I'm going with Ariane. And it's not because of her Instagram. It's not because of anything like that. It's a little bit because of that. But she is a very, very good fighter. She made the transition to ATT. And you know who she talked about, one of the first people she trains with was Amanda Nunes. So I think she's learning very, very quickly. She's learning from the best. She got in trouble with takedowns. I think a lot of people think that, she's going to get dominated on the ground because they saw her on her back. One of the reasons that she was on her back in those last couple of fights was because she was going for takedowns of her own. They were kind of body lock takedowns, and then she was just kind of getting reversed. I think if she just avoids that, she can keep it on her feet. She's been training ATT, so she knows she's getting good training. And then she just pieces up Montana De La Rosa on her feet, just like Vivi did. I think she's as good a striker as Vivi, and Vivi beat her by stuffing the takedowns. I think she can do the same. I didn't want to really put her in my lineup for $6,900, but because I had the lock of the week and everything, the other lock of the week, but she is definitely the backup lock of the week. So I have her to win the fight.
I will say, I think Montana wins. I think the wrestling is just too much. But $9,300, I'm not doing that. I think she wins, but not $9,300 win. She would have to get a stoppage pretty early for that to be worth it. And I don't know if that will happen. And the strike line, I don't know what I'm going to do with the strike line. I think I will go less. I think I'll go less. I think Montana will get the takedowns. But I don't know how crazy busy she'll be on top. And then Lipski will be less because she'll be on her back. So I'm going to go less on this strike line. It's not the most confident I've been, but if you want to triple your money and give this line a try, go to playmkf.com/WeWantPicks. And if you want to bet on this fight, go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. And we have a bunch of different promo options for you. Select the best one, play some money, and win some money. Next up at UFC Vegas 28, we have Makwan Amirkhani versus Kamuela Kirk. No significant strike line because this is a really tricky fight, but we have a giant gap in the odds, a giant gap in the DraftKings lineups or DraftKings prices, and I think it's pretty accurate, especially with Kirk's tendency to fade later in fights. And if he can't get takedowns, he has zero backup plan whatsoever. And Amirkhani's got some pretty solid takedown defense and takedowns of his own. So I think Amirkhani's the play here. I think Amirkhani wins this fight. He's a durable guy. He has decent striking. He has solid takedowns. He's a big favorite, as he should be. But it's a wide line, but I think his experience and his durability is the difference. And he stays in his lane with his record. And what I mean by that is he beats everybody he's supposed to beat. And his losses are against all really good people. He doesn't fight to the level of his competition. He beats everybody he's supposed to. He loses to those top 10 guys, but this is not a top 10 guy. And I think he absolutely beats Kirk, add to the long list of fighters he's supposed to beat. But Daniel, why don't you come off mute and let us know what you think happens?
So interestingly on this one, I don't necessarily agree with these odds, and I definitely don't agree with the DraftKings line. So I think this fight could be more competitive than people think. I think Kirk is better than certainly 6,800, and he's what, plus 240.
You got to mute.
This is one where I'm going to be looking at the plus 3.5. I think we'll see if I get good odds on that. I definitely might take a stab at it. But I think, listen, Kirk is 2-2 in his last 4, but he's won his last 2 in a row. He's short notice for this, right? But he just fought on May 14th. So, I mean, he should still be in very good shape. In that last fight, it was the LFA main event. He was ready to go. I think I don't know if it was a 3 or 5 round fight, but he was main event. And he literally made his opponent quit in between the first and the second round, or I think it was after the second round. But anyways, he literally beat the guy up. The guy quit. He's like, yeah, I'm done. I don't want to fight anymore. It's not for me. He just beat the guy up. And his losses were to Billy Quarantillo and Bruno Souza on Contender Series. Both of those guys are good, especially Quarantillo. Quarantillo is the sort of guy who will just keep coming at you. I don't know if you watched that fight, but it was competitive until Quarantillo's just super conditioning took over, and you just couldn't. He's like a mosquito that won't leave you alone. You just can't get him out of your face. So you
can't kill a mosquito, Dan. You got problems.
All right, yeah, that's a good point. It's like 1,000 mosquitoes trying to sting you at the same time. You just can't. Like, Quarantillo is a tough matchup for anybody, just from the pure cardio aspect. And then Souza, he lost to, who's a karate guy, which anytime you fight a karate guy, that's just a tough stylistic matchup to prepare for. So I think his losses are, they're not excused, but they're certainly not losses to people that are, he lost to a nobody. Like, he lost to 2 pretty good guys, or at least tough stylistic matchup guys. The fight that I was just talking about, his last fight, he took that on 11 days notice. So I guess this is still technically a short notice fight, because he fought 2 weeks ago. That was 11 days notice. So this is a couple weeks later. But I don't know. His striking looks very good. He's very confident in his demeanor. If if you watch video on him, he almost stands like Conor McGregor. He just kind of walks you down with this arrogant, confident style. He's got a good left hook, good kicks, knees. He's got a laser right hand. I thought he was a very, very diverse striker. I was impressed with his fights. And then we go to Amirkhani, who's 9 fights in the UFC. That's one of the big X factors here. So he's got a ton of experience in the UFC. He's 6-3. He has lost 2 out of his last 3, but again, quality of opponents wise, it was Edson Barbosa and Shane Burgos. I mean, those guys are both up there in the top 5, top 10 of the division.
I hope they fight each other one day.
Was that a joke because they just fought?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God.
Good one. Anyways, yeah. So I don't know. Amirkhani, I think, is very good. Also, I think this is a fight where if they're striking, I think Kamuela will probably have the edge. But I think Amirkhani is going to look to get the fight down to the ground. I think he's going to try to wrestle early and often. If he does that, he should win. But I don't know. I just watching the tape. I think Kamuela's got more skills and is better than the odds say. I haven't been able to find enough of his takedown defense in recent fights to really make a confident stab at this. But if I can find something on him with his takedown defense, anybody out there, anybody's got any tape or knowledge on him takedown defense-wise, I'm very intrigued by him as an underdog in this fight, especially at the plus 3.5 betting line. So I might take him in DraftKings. I got to be honest. I'm playing with some things right now. $6,800. I'll see if I need it to open up some other more expensive fighters. But I don't know. I think Kamuela Kirk is much better than the line suggests.
Yeah, I mean, I just did not see it that way. Not that your analysis is wrong, because everything your analysis was correct. Your prediction, I don't agree with. I just don't think you have a backup.
By the way, my official pick for the record, who I think
I got you,
is Amirkhani. But again, I think listen, if they were a striking match only, I think I would pick Kamuela Kirk, no question. It's just a matter of whether or not he can defend takedowns, and I'm not too sure on that, but I don't know. Well,
it will be. I'm curious to see the 3.5 bet odds because again, he just has to win one round. But Jacob, you and I agree on this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know, Dan. Unfortunately, I have to agree with Angelo here, and I almost am just going to lie just to agree with you, so I don't have to agree with him. But I just can't do it just because I think these odds are right. And I think this fight is so far apart. Kirk, this is a UFC debut, and you mentioned the people that Amirkhani is fighting and fighting well too. I mean, against Barbosa, he actually got really hurt in the second a couple times, and then came back and dominated the third round. It was crazy the way his takedowns is not like normal. A lot of people when they shoot takedowns, it's a lot of forced takedowns. His is so opportunistic to where he's a great counter puncher. So he'll let Kirk, if Kirk wants to, I think Kirk is better on the ground, but if he wants to strike, he'll let him keep coming, hit him with those counters, and then shoot the takedown. He times them so well, ends up on top, and then just dominates in the top position. So I just don't see anywhere in this fight where Kirk can win. It's striking and the grappling and the wrestling. I just don't see anywhere. I think he really gets dominated on the ground, and I think that's where Kirk wants to be, unfortunately. I think Kirk is a good fighter. I just think short notice, he just fought 3 weeks ago. There's another guy on this card that just fought 2 weeks ago. If he was a little bit more seasoned, I would feel a little bit better, but short notice like this, I just don't see anywhere where he wins this fight.
Yeah. I'm with you on the ground. Like if he gets taken, this could end up looking.
I think it's just a bad matchup. I think if it was anyone else, I would like his skill set. I just think that everywhere he's here, Amirkhani's here. So.
Well,
striking, I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see what happens. I am curious to see what that significant strike line is. I don't know if I'm going to bet on this fight, but I do love tripling my money in monkey knife fights. So
it's total strikes.
I will see what the total strike line is and play that once that's released. But for now, this is what we have. I do have Amirkhani in my DraftKings lineup. He's very expensive. So, I have 2 super expensive people. So the rest of my lineup's a little wobbly, but we'll talk about in the DraftKings breakdown video. Next up at UFC Vegas 28, we have Tom Breese versus Antonio Arroyo. And one of our very loyal members and watchers gave us some insight and said, Joe Todoro, said that there's basically never been a takedown between these two fighters in their UFC careers. So that is an interesting stat going into this. We do have two strikers. Tom Breese, high-level boxer, very good jab, great straight left. And we have Antonio Arroyo with great kicks, especially low ones. So the way I see this is Tom Breese needs to get his boxing off to win this fight. Antonio Arroyo needs to chop down that tree to slow down the boxing of Tom Breese to get going what he wants to get going. It is striker versus striker.
Tom Breese had a takedown attempt in his last fight.
A takedown attempt and a takedown are not the same thing.
I thought you said takedown attempts at all.
No, takedown attempt and takedowns are not the same thing. And take it up with Joe, our very loyal member. Anyway, before I make a pick, I will take the more on the total strike line because they are two strikers. I don't know if somebody's going to get put away because I think Antonio will use that leg kick to sort of chop down the tree, as I said. So I think Tom Breese is my pick, but Antonio Arroyo will survive at least enough to get past 36 and a half strikes. Daniel, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Tom Breese is just going to be the better overall boxer striker. I think Arroyo's got a little bit of an edge in power, but I mean, you can see the odds here. I think the money's coming in on Breese is just the more polished, more refined, overall better striker, and I think that's how the fight's going to play out. I think Breese potentially does have some takedowns in his back pocket too, which could be a factor in this fight. But I just see him kind of winning this fight on the feet. Unless he gets clipped with something by Arroyo, I just think he's a different caliber fighter, a different caliber striker. And I think it's pretty like laid out for a win for him. So I'm going with Breese. I'm not going to pay the $9,200 for him in DraftKings. I just worry about Arroyo's power a little bit, and I don't know. I think there's better matchups to focus on. So not touching it in DraftKings, not going to bet on it. And then strike-wise, yeah, I'm going to go more.
Yeah, I think more is the play, and I think some of these fights are get a little hard to make money on when you talk about bets because these odds are so far that it's going to be hard to make money on that. DraftKings lineup, $9,200, he might be worth it, but this card has an exorbitant amount of people over $9,000, so that gets hard. But Monkey Knife Fight, literally triple your money, and all you have to do is pick more or less for these guys, and if you hit it, you triple. Super easy. Go to playmkf.com/WeWantPicks and use promo code WWP, and they will give you free money when you deposit. Jacob, do you also think Tom Breese wins this fight?
Yeah, and I'm going to spend my $9,200 on him because I think the UFC wants him to win that fight. I think they know he's a good talent. He's lost in some top level competition, but they want him around. So they looked at his last fight against KB Bowler and they thought, wow, he really beat the brakes off of KB Bowler. Let's give him KB Bowler 2.0. And that's what I think Arroyo is. I think he's a good striker. He switches stances. He's kind of got that karate stance, hands low. And I just looked it up. He averages 1.3 takedowns a fight. And I watched his fights where he does those weird takedowns where it's like those cartoon takedowns. I think I can't remember who just fought that just did it. And they're like, wow, I can't believe he did that takedown where you like punch past the guy and then you like back trip him, just kind of push him over. He does like those kind of weird takedowns, which I don't think they're going to work versus.
I was going to say the ones that don't work in the UFC.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think he was doing those in the Contender Series or whatever it was. And those are not going to work versus Tom Breese. So I don't think he gets a fight to the ground. And I think Tom Breese, he's got a piston jab he's got that other, all the other strikes as well. So the only thing that worries me is Tom Breese can put himself in bad positions, chasing submissions. So if Arroyo goes for takedowns, he'll try and jump on a guillotine and doesn't always get it. And then all of a sudden he's on his back. At the same time, if he's on his back for some reason, he'll also chase submissions to get out of that position, to get back to his feet. So he's kind of plays both ways with submissions. I guess that's how it goes. But that's the only thing that worries me is if Arroyo just constantly shoots takedowns, Tom Breese keeps jumping on the neck, ends up on the back, and loses the fight with points. But if this stands striking, which I think it will, Tom Breese should dominate the striking. I think this matchup was made for him to dominate this fight. Yeah, so I have Tom Breese, and he's in my lineup.
Well, it should be a fun one. Two bigger guys going at it on their feet is always fun to watch. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm playing that monkey knife fight line, and I'm going to have fun watching it. Next up at UFC Vegas 28, we have Dusko Todorovic versus Gregory Rodriguez. This is another, I hate saying interesting. I hate saying tricky, but this is interesting. And this is tricky. I have a question mark next to my pick because this was a very hard one to pick. We have Todorovic coming off of his first loss. Jacob, you talked about it earlier. We have a couple of these young guys coming off of their very first loss, and we don't know what they're going to look like, how they respond to adversity. You almost like guys with 2 or 3 losses because you know what happens, and you know they've been through it before. These undefeated guys, first loss in the UFC, that's always a lot of question marks. Anyway, he's very well-rounded. He's very technical. He has power. He has takedowns, and he has solid jiu-jitsu offense. His chin is the only thing that's a little – I wouldn't say he has no chin because it's not like he got – I mean, he has 1 loss, and it's not like he got just lights out, but he does get – his legs get a little uneasy when he gets hit. And we have Gregory Rodriguez, jiu-jitsu black belt, also has some solid power. He also has a chin that's a little suspect, but he has plenty of power to put other people away, and he has nice, crisp striking. These guys are pretty evenly matched. I am surprised by how wide the DraftKings prices are, as well as the strike lines. And I know those strike lines are built on stats and statistics, and there's data that back that up. But I do think this will be a much closer fight than any of these things indicate. Daniel, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's funny because you're talking about the DraftKings spread versus the odds. So there has been heavy money coming in on Rodriguez. He started at plus 200, and I think he's even less than plus 140 now. So there's a lot of people who think that line was way off. I'm just looking it up right now, but Rodriguez just fought pretty recently.
The 21st.
Yeah, so he's going to be in shape. He does have power.
He's at plus 125, plus 121, so they're definitely still moving.
Yeah, so there's heavy money coming in on Rodriguez, which, I mean, kind of makes me want to play Todorovic, but this fight just has me a little scared. I think Rodriguez, I think rightfully the money was coming in at those odds. I think they're probably closer right where they should be now, which Rodriguez being a plus 125, 130 underdog. But I think he's live in this fight. For $7,600, I may look at playing him in DraftKings because I think you're getting a value on those DraftKings odds. But from a betting standpoint, probably not going to touch it right now. If Todorovic really comes down to even money, I might take him. I mean, Rodriguez, I think, was fighting on the regional scene. The fight on the 21st, I believe, was a regional level fight.
LFA.
So, yeah, LFA. So good promotion, but a feeder league for the UFC. They get a lot of good talent from there. But Todorovic, I think, is a much more proven fighter. So that alone, I think, has some value. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting fight. I'm very intrigued by it. I'm going to go with Todorovic for my pick. DraftKings, I may end up taking Rodriguez depending how all the pieces come together, but I think it's going to be an interesting fight. Probably definitely closer than the original odds. And for the total strikes, I'm going to go with definitely more on Rodriguez and probably less on Todorovic.
All right, yeah, I mean. Yeah, I agree with definitely more on Rodriguez. The Todorovic line is good. I'm not sure what I'm going to do there. Jacob, what are your thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, you mentioned this was the other fight that it was a young guy coming off his first loss. We felt good about, or at least I felt good listening to Mason Jones after his fight. I didn't hear any post-fight interviews with Dusko, but just the way he fought his last fight, he was his whole career he was undefeated, and he was kind of running through everyone. And he's one of those guys that he gets a little showboaty in the octagon. A lot of his defense isn't, it's just a lot of just hands down head movement, slipping punches, head back. He relies on his head movement a lot, and he's very, very good at it. But he kind of got a little too too cool for school in his last fight. And it was against an undefeated fighter in Soriano, but he got caught, and he got caught a lot. The only thing I will say is the first time he got caught, and he was in real trouble that fight, and he obviously ended up losing the fight. He is tough, man. He got dropped and was shooting takedowns and got back to his feet and then dropped again and shooting takedowns and back to his feet. Then he got his mouthpiece knocked out. Herb was trying to find his mouthpiece. He went and found his own mouthpiece, put it back in, got hit again. And then finally Herb stopped the fight. But I mean, he just kept coming even when he was getting hit. And even after he was dazed, he was still slipping punches pretty well. But Gregory is the real deal. I understand why there's money coming in. And I wish that this was a full camp. He just fought 2 weeks ago in like an actual fight. It's not like it was like a training camp. And then he actually fought 2 weeks ago, and he's a big dude coming down in weight. So I don't know how that's going to affect him just fighting 2 weeks. I think if this was a full camp for Gregory, I think I would take him in this fight. Dusko is very, very good, but that hands down head movement, as you go up in competition, it's not going to work very well. And Gregory is a very technical striker. So I think Dusko is beatable. I think Gregory can win this fight. He's also got good takedowns of his own if he needs it. But I'm going with Dusko, and I'm putting him in my lineup just to chase those finishes, because when he's good, I mean, you can look at his record. He's very, very good. He's first round, second round, first round, second round, first round. One decision win. So I'm going to chase the stoppage here. I'm going to hope that he shows up. I'm going to hope that the Gregory, the 2 week short notice kind of wears on him a little bit, maybe some cardio issues later on. But this is definitely a tough fight. So I understand why the money's coming in for Gregory. So this is just me kind of chasing a stoppage, honestly, for 8,600.
Yeah. I mean, this is a fun one. I'm looking forward to it. This could be fight of the night. It'll really, Rodriguez could come out here and be like, I need to prove a point. Dusko can come out here and say, I need to prove a point. And they could really just go at it. I'm not going to play. I'm not going to bet. I don't think I'm going to have Todorovic in my lineup, but 8,600 isn't a crazy price, to your point, if he's on, and 7,600 is a very good price for somebody like Rodriguez. And I think he's valued because of his short notice. So either way, this one is a ton of fun. Let us know in the comments what you think about this fight, because I am very curious what all of our viewers are thinking here. Next up at UFC Vegas 28, we have Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Miguel Baeza. I have seen our bets. We didn't do our betting guide yet, but by the time you're watching this, it should be available. I've seen our bets. I've seen where some of our money has gone, and this is a good matchup. So we have Ponzinibbio. He's coming back from a long layoff. He came back from a long layoff and was knocked out 4 months ago. We got a question in one of our live chats the other day. Is ring rust a real thing? I think it is, and I think Ponzinibbio showed that, right? He had that long layoff, came back, got knocked out. Now that's behind him, and we will see what he looks like. The Ponzinibbio of old was very good. Very good. He has great hands, solid low kicks, very well-rounded fighter, and has the abilities to do something real in this division. Where Baeza, he's been active, so he didn't have that long layoff. He's very versatile. He looks better and better in every single fight. He has really good kicks, and I would say he has the advantage in kicks. Ponzinibbio has the advantage in boxing. So I always like those dynamics, because will Baeza keep Ponzinibbio away with the kicks, chop down that tree? And the big question here is, what does Ponzinibbio look like after that loss, after the layoff? Will he go back to what he was? He has, Baeza has solid fight IQ, even though he's young. And I think this fight might be a changing of the guard. I think Ponzinibbio had his time, and he's sort of passing the torch, and Baeza is on the way up, and will sort of take some of that steam and that momentum. Dan, I've seen your bets. I know where you're going. Why don't you break down this fight?
Yeah, no, I'm all over Ponzinibbio on this one. At plus odds, I mean, it's almost like people forgot the streak he was on before his last fight.
Is this a joke? This is a joke?
No.
You being serious?
Yeah, I'm taking Ponzinibbio.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
All over.
Yeah, I mean, you're everywhere, Dan.
You're acting surprised. You just said you saw my bets.
I'm pulling it up now to make sure I'm not crazy, but okay, yeah, I thought you bet Baeza, but I guess not.
No.
You have Ponzinibbio. Yeah, what am I talking about?
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, Jacob, dumb ASS. has
Right.
Beza winning inside the distance. So why are you correcting Dan? Go ahead, Dan.
Okay. I was very confused. I was like, is there something I missed? Is there?
Oh, there's something you missed.
Well, I think there's something you missed, Jacob, and that's
I think you
Ponzinibbio's
better lower your
entire
voice.
career prior to his last fight. So, yes, ring rust is something real, especially in fights where your first fight back is against a very, very tough fight and unique fight in Jinglang Li. I don't know if you guys watched that fight, but ring rust, in my opinion, I mean, it can affect people differently, but when you fight a guy who moves around all over the place, bouncing all over the place, keeps the distance, it is very hard. One of the hardest things to get back in your first fight back is getting that timing, right? And Ponzinibbio's first fight back after a couple years off was against Jinglang Li, who's very good. Um, and man, it just, you can't get your rhythm back against a guy like that. So, and you could tell he was trying to find him. He was like stalking him down, but just, it was almost like he was getting frustrated that he couldn't get to him. He ended up getting clipped, but I think he's way better than we saw his last fight. I mean, if you look at his win streak prior to that, he beat Neil Magny, Mike Perry, Gunnar Nelson. He beat some very, very good guys, and his striking looked phenomenal. Great jab, powerful right hand, good kicks. I mean, the Neil Magny fight was one of the most impressive fights I saw. He beat him in the 4th round, and that fight was a dismantling. I mean, he picked him apart, dropped him multiple times with leg kicks, defended takedowns when he needed to. It was just like, it was an all-around masterpiece performance. So I think he's at that level already. Like, he's in the top of the division, whereas Beza, I think, is a good, promising talent. He's 3-0 in the UFC, but, I mean, the level of competition here is a little bit different. You know, he beat Takashi Soto, Matt Brown, Hector Aldana, all solid wins. I think this is just a big step up, and I don't know if he's ready for it yet. So at plus money, I'll take Ponzinibbio all day here. You know, Baeza, watch him on tape. He's definitely very good. He's a traditional, you know, more traditional in terms of solid fundamentals, solid stance, but he's fairly stationary. He doesn't have a bunch of crazy footwork or anything. So very, very different fight than Ponzinibbio's last opponent. And I think that will work in Ponzinibbio's favor to get him back in the rhythm, shake things off, get back to fighting, get comfortable in the mix during, you know, a 3-round fight. And I think he'll pick him apart striking and maybe even get a finish. But for sure, over 3 rounds, I think he's going to win the striking exchanges. So I've got him all day. I'm definitely going to play him in DraftKings. I've got bets on him, and more all day on the strike line.
I agree with the more for sure. I do think it's a close fight. I think it's a good fight. I have Beza winning, but and that is some recency bias. The long layoff, the way he lost after that long layoff, it's not. I don't know if he's had the time to shake all of that rust just yet. Beza is younger, active. So I'm going with Beza here, but just by a slight edge. And I don't mind Beza at minus 125. It's not like he's minus 200. Minus 125, he's a very slight favorite, and I think he should be. Jacob, tell them why you agree with me.
You guys forget Matt Brown almost finished. My boy Matt Brown. I love Matt Brown. That was my guy on the Ultimate Fighter. We played ping pong all the time. He was always chewing and just a cool dude. But Matt Brown almost finished him in that first round, and he got clipped. So, you know, I think Ponzinibbio. Matt Brown did that when he was 38, 39 years old. Ponzinibbio is much younger. I think. I don't know. I think Beza's in trouble. Go ahead,
Jacob. Bunch of guys.
No, I mean, this is an undefeated fighter for $8,300. This is a jiu-jitsu black belt, jiu-jitsu base who's knocking everyone out, and now he's at MMA Masters where he's going to work on his wrestling. It's unbelievable. And Santiago was a very good fighter. He had the layoff. The layoff was not, I'm taking time off. I'm taking time off to get better. I'm moving camps. I'm doing this. He was like, had wild injuries with bone infections. I mean, it was like not good. That's why he missed time. It wasn't to get better. He was like trying not to lose a leg through all this. He came back. He obviously showed all that octagon rust, which makes sense. He was off just, laying in bed, but he threw 18 strikes in that fight. It's not like he knocked off the rust in that fight. He only threw 18 strikes to Lee's 50 in that fight and ended up getting finished. So it's not like he's going to come back fresh. Oh, I knocked off the ring rust. I'm fine now. And Baez, like I said, is just so well-rounded. He's a black belt that's knocking people out. He just got his first submission win in his last fight, and that was after he knocked the guy down and then ended up finding an arm triangle. So, you know, I think these odds should be 3-1, and that's nothing against Santiago. I think he was a very good fighter. I just don't think he has anymore. Sometimes you lose it. Sometimes you're a step behind, whether it's ring rust or whatever. And Miguel Baez is a 10-0 fighter for $8,300. I'll take that all day. He's in my lineup. I have him in all my bets, all my parlays. And he's going to make me a lot of money on Saturday night.
Well, Jacob and Dan on complete opposite sides of this fight. So I'm very much looking forward to see this play out. See where that goes. I have Beza. I do think it's a close fight, so I'm in the middle. I think Beza wins, but I think this is a very close fight, and I would not be surprised by a Santiago win. More is the play.
Make fights, my friend Jacob. You're going to learn it in this one.
Oh, you don't see.
More is in DraftKings, Angelo?
I have to look at my lineup. I had two very expensive fighters, so I don't remember what I ended up with. More is the play in Monkey Knife Fight. Go to playmkf.com/wewantpicks, and you can triple your money playing that line. And if you want to put a bet on this fight, I don't know if you're going to bet with Dan or bet with Jacob. Use your emojis down below, but go to wewantpicks.com/bets. Grab the promo that you like best. Throw some money on this fight, and let's see what happens. Next up at UFC Vegas 28, we have my man, Roman Dolidze versus Laredo Staropoli. And Roman Dolidze let us down.
Let me first just start by saying I'm not sure how Roman when was that? Hold on. When was that last
It was just a couple months ago.
I have no idea. Yeah, it was just in March. I don't know how he has recovered from that beating from Trevin Giles.
Wasn't that like a bad decision?
No, this is like a lock of the week.
No, I know, but it was like a bad
Trevin Giles was
like
my lock of the week. Trevin Giles was my lock of the week and absolutely just beat the brakes. I've never seen a beating. I mean, I think it was 10-6, 10-6, 10-6, something like that. It was crazy.
It was like literally a bad split decision that Roman should have won.
It was a domination by Trevin Giles. So go ahead. I'm just surprised that he was able to fight. I didn't know he was out of the hospital.
I think surprised. Jacob was texting like, "Oh man, Dolidze definitely won." It's the one where you were shocked when they gave it to
This
Giles.
is the one. Jacob and I watched it outside at my house, and Jacob was like miserable, depressed, waiting to lose the decision. Then it went his way, and he did a complete 180, sending text like he knew what he was doing. That's exactly what happened. So either way, Roman Dolidze, it's funny because everybody talks about his striking. He just marches forward, throws a ton of power, is winning these fights with striking, but he is literally a world-level grappler. But he's got power. He's got a chin. He's a giant for this weight class. He was a heavyweight. He's worked his way down. He's a massive human being. I don't know how he makes weight. Jacob, in the last fight, basically picked Trevin Giles, saying, I don't think Roman's going to show up. He's going to miss weight. And then not only did he make weight, he didn't even really look tired. Like considering,
I knew on weigh-ins that this was not going to be a good fight for Trevin Giles. But he came out and dominated. So,
and then and then we have Loreno. He's a kickboxer, but he needs his range to fight. He likes his range to set up his striking, to set up his kickboxing. Roman just marches forward, isn't going to give him that range. I'm riding the Roman train again, but I think this time the judges are going to get it right. Danny. Oh, Danny. How do you think this goes? You're looking at me like you're just waiting for what's Angelo going to say. What do you think I'm going to say? How do you think this goes?
You said, oh, Danny, like there was some sort of setup there.
Danny,
no, I think the two big things, that's what I was waiting for, Jacob. Thank you. I think the two big things in this fight are the weight, right? Staropoli is coming up from 170. He's a good striker. He fought Pitbull at 170. I think he won that via decision. So he can hang with strikers. But Dolidze is coming down from 205 and they're meeting at 185. So I think there's a huge size advantage for Dolidze. And you already mentioned it, the grappling and the submissions is a huge edge for Dolidze. So I think he's going to win this fight. I'm going to take a bet on him at minus 140. Actually, I haven't put it in yet, so I don't even know if the odds are still the same on that. But I like him in this fight. I think he's tough. He's also one of those guys we talked about in his last breakdown. He's one of those guys that's just, he is a straight up brawler, street fighter, doesn't give a crap, and will just let caution fly to the wind and just throw bombs, go for takedowns, go for subs. So I think in this fight he can do that with his size advantage and grappling advantage. I think he can really get aggressive and get a win a couple different ways. So I'm taking Dolidze in this fight for the more or less. Ooh, this is a good.
It's a hard line. It's a very hard line.
I'm going to go with less on the chance that Dolidze gets a sub. So
yeah, that's probably not a bad play there. And we'll talk about more of that in our Monkey Knife Fight video. But essentially, I know I do the promo. I say go to the, playmkf.com/we-want-picks, get the free money, put the free money here. The reality is you triple your money with a win. So you're better off playing multiple lines because you can win 2, lose 1, and still make a bunch of money. So you're better off spreading that out. This is the type of line where if you do want to throw less on it, hoping for a stoppage, it's worth the risk because you'll make up the money elsewhere. Anyway, Jacob, how do you feel about Roman? What are your thoughts here? I don't know which way you're going to go because he basically beat your lock but lost to your lock.
Well, I mean, he lost at lock of the week, so that's what the decision was. So, yeah, I don't know what your guys' favorite Bible verses are. Mine definitely first is Jacob's ladder. Obviously, that's a given. Next would probably be David and Goliath. And Dan alluded to it. This is like a David and Goliath matchup with big Roman and Staropoli coming up from 170. But Staropoli, I think that he can find a way to, if he can keep, you mentioned, Angelo, his the way he can keep distance. If he can keep this at distance, I can see him, if he can just kind of hang around to that middle of that second round. We've seen Roman, he doesn't get tired to where he can't fight, but he gets tired to where, hands down a little bit. He starts smiling, making faces. Trevin Giles dropped him a couple times doing that. So, I don't think Staropoli's going to maybe not drop him, but he can find a way to steal the end of a second round and then be able to outpoint him that third round if he can survive that first round. So I think Roman should win this fight. I'm just kind of worried about that cardio again. He's just such a big guy that's going to come back to haunt him eventually. Obviously, it kind of did his last fight. He got dominated by Trevin Giles' last fight. So if Staropoli can kind of keep this fight clean in the first round and just kind of wait and then pour on the volume late, I could see him winning a weird decision here. So Roman should win. I have him winning. But don't be surprised if Staropoli comes around and wins a split decision or something like that.
If Staropoli wins, then that's it for Roman for me. I mean, he's got all the tools in the world. Like Dan said, he throws caution to the wind, and sometimes that's the problem. So he could come out sloppy, meaning in his mind he's not sloppy. He's just having fun, and he could end up losing a weird decision.
And another thing I love too is one of Staropoli's fights. I can't remember which one it was, but you could tell he knew he was losing the fight going into the third round, I think, and he came out aggressive. So he's one of those guys that knows where he's at in the fight and knows how to win rounds. So if he's, like I said, if he's in the middle of a round, he knows how to win rounds with volume. So,
Two things real quick. Bet online. I just went there right now. I put my bet in.
151?
Minus 151. Yep. So the money's coming in on Dolidze. So that's one. And two, if Dolidze shaved his chest, he could probably make 155.
Yeah, he could keep working his way down. So
very like animal.
If you want to hit that line before it moves again, go to wewantpicks.com/bet. We have 4 different promotional offers. One is just straight up free money from us. We'll send you $20. The others are different matches for deposits and different ways to get free money through the website. So check out one of those links, log in, make a play before this line moves even more. Next up at UFC Vegas 28, we have the co-main event of the evening. We have Walt Harris versus Marcin Tybura. We have first round knockout or bust Walt Harris. And I love the guy. He's a ton of fun to watch. Couldn't be a nicer human being. Has had the roughest couple of years anybody could ever ask for. So I say feast or famine a lot, and he is a feast or famine fighter. He's ridiculously athletic. He has a ton of power, and he gets stopped or does the stopping. It's one or the other. So it's always a hard fight to pick when you have somebody that can knock you out cold in the first 2 minutes, but then also get knocked out or beat on. He overcommits to some of his punches. He gets taken down. And this may be a problem because Tybura is a grinder who never quits. He's busy everywhere. If he gets the takedown, which he may, because Walt Harris is going to overcommit, or has in the past overcommitted to some of those first round knockout attempts, Tybura can get the takedown and just absolutely pound away. He just needs to avoid the big punches. So it's an interesting story here because Walt Harris is either going to knock this dude's head off and win you a ton of money in DraftKings and in real life, or get taken down and pounded out. It's a hard one to pick. Dan, I know Walt Harris used to be an ATT guy. He no longer is. So what are your thoughts, and how do you see this going?
Yeah, I think very similar to what you just said. Walt Harris, first of all, he is a good dude. I trained with him for a bunch of years. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Just one of those people that just has an energy about him and is just naturally friendly to everybody. Like, he doesn't know you. He'll talk to you, say hello. Just a good dude. But as far as fighting goes, you nail it. Extremely athletic, explosive striker, super fast for a heavyweight. And he's a fast starter. I mean, he almost finished Overeem in that first 2 minutes. I was like looking pretty close. I thought the ref might stop it. But when he didn't get the finish, he was coming off a layoff, and obviously all the stuff in his personal life. So that's a factor. But he got tired pretty quickly after that. And I think the key was once Overeem landed a big head kick and dropped him, but once Overeem got on top of him on the ground, Walt did not have an answer. And I'm not sure where he's training now. I think he's out in the Midwest somewhere. He's not training at ATT anymore. So I'm assuming he's getting good training, but it's hard to get the level you need if you're not at a big gym like we have down here. So yeah, I think this is just going to be a tough matchup for him if he doesn't get that first round early stoppage. Tybura, you said it, he's a grinder. He's on a 4-fight win streak. He's actually a pretty good striker too. He's not like a technical boxer, but he's tough. He hangs in the pocket. He throws some good shots. He's very calculated, not overly aggressive, and he's got a good chin. He got sparked a few times by Greg Hardy in the last fight, and he just ate them all. His wrestling is I feel like his wrestling is so close to being really good. Like, his entry on his shots is perfectly timed, but he just doesn't quite get the follow through. His footwork isn't quite there. If he could fix that, man, he would be a very, very good heavyweight with his wrestling. But either way, he ends up getting the takedown. He just has to work a little harder for it. He generally shoots, doesn't get on the initial thing, pushes you up against the cage, and then will work kind of that double leg against the fence, or generally some sort of fence takedown. So I see that kind of being the case in this fight. I think Harris is going to look really good early. Tybura might get hurt. I think he'll weather the storm. And then by the end of the first, second, if it makes it to the third, for sure the third, he's going to take over, start getting takedowns. And when he gets on top, I think Harris is going to struggle. So as much as I want Walt to win, we were friends years ago. I've got Tybura winning this fight. I've got a couple bets on him. And for DraftKings, I don't know if I'm going to work him in there or not. The risk of him getting KO'd could really ruin your night for your lineup. And also, I don't know if he's going to get a ton of points unless he gets a stoppage. So I may pass on him in DraftKings, but I think he's going to win the fight for sure.
Yeah, and I'm going, before I go to you, Jacob, I'm going less more on the Monkey Knife Fight line. I think Walt Harris will throw those big punches, not get that knockout, and then get grounded out. I don't think he'll land more than 21 total strikes. So I'm going to go less on Walt, more on Tybura. I mean, I guess I should do less, but I just think Tybura on top, just busy, and he'll get past that 59.5. But Jacob, what are your thoughts here? How do you see it going? I know people in the comments last week were saying, actually in our live stream too, Walt should be your lock of the week. Obviously he's not, but do you even think he's going to win this fight?
Originally I was on your guys' side. Obviously I don't think anyone's going to actively root against Walt Harris. I mean, he's a great guy. He's got that tragic story. So I was going to feel bad picking against him, and then I started looking more into it and started looking at the matchup. And his last, 2 fights, he lost against Overeem, which he did get taken down, but he was doing all right in the striking exchange. He was doing just fine. And then he lost against Volkov, and both Overeem and Volkov are some of the best kickboxers in the division. Obviously, he struggled with Volkov's length, and he couldn't get in the pocket. He's not going to struggle with that against Tybura. And Tybora's last loss was against Augusta Sakai, who just kind of went after him and overwhelmed him in that first round. And if there's anyone that can match that exact style, obviously Walt Harris is not the kind of striker that Sakai is, but he can bring that same pressure and land the same heavy shots that Sakai can. So, at $7,500, 13 wins all by KO TKOs, I was looking for a way to put him in my lineup. He wouldn't give me my lock of the week, but I was trying to find a way to work him in my lineup. It didn't end up working out. If there's a fight dropped, I think I'm going to try to find him to work a way in because, Tabor is a good striker, but I think the way he loses, is by getting overwhelmed. And I think that Walt Harris can overwhelm him early, has the power to end it, as he's shown 13 times. So I think Walt Harris wins this fight.
He's definitely live and he can win the fight. It's just if he doesn't get that first that first knockout, he gets nothing. So that's going to be the problem here. So he's going to score you 100 and something points or 10 points. So either way, I'm looking forward to the fight. I like these type of heavyweight matchups. So we'll see what happens. I'm going with Tybura for the win, but I do have a prop bet, and we'll talk about that in our betting guide, on Walt Harris for a knockout because you get some decent odds on that. So we will see that video in a little bit. Next up at UFC Vegas 28, we have the main event of the evening. We have Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Augusto Sakai, heavyweight striker versus heavyweight striker in a 5-round, will probably be a striking affair. Both of these guys are sort of Muay Thai-esque heavyweight strikers. Rozenstruik coming off of one of the most boring heavyweight fights of all time. I don't know if you could fault him for it. Rozenstruik likes to wait and see what you're going to do. He's not necessarily a counter striker, but he's also not going to dictate the pace. And Gane just didn't bring any pace to him. And then we have Sakai.
What's interesting is I looked up the stats for that fight. Gane landed 128 strikes. So
that's so funny. It felt so boring.
No, I agree because I had both fighters in that fight. And I remember thinking well, this was dumb. But I just checked. And I'm like, oh man, because it did seem boring. So
yeah, that is a surprising number. So, and honestly, there might be some recency bias with my pick here, but I think Augusto Sakai wins this. They're both strikers, but I think Sakai, his more aggressive Muay Thai style means he is going to come forward. He is going to close the distance. He is going to fight dirty with elbows and knees, and I think he's going to make it an ugly fight. And I think he'll do some damage, and I think he'll close the distance and win this fight. Jairzinho will tend to wait to see what you're going to do. I don't know if Augusto is going to give him time to let him figure him out, if that makes sense, right? I think while Rozenstruik's going to try to figure out Sakai is just going to close the distance, clinch up the head, throw knees, elbows, and just make things happen there. So I'm going with Sakai. He's in my lineup because he's dirt cheap. I have a money line bet on him because he's plus odds. And I think he can win by stoppage, honestly. I hate this monkey knife fight line, though, so I'm not going to touch that. But, Dan, you're ATT. Sakai is or was ATT. What are your thoughts?
Rozenstruik is ATT.
At ATT right now, yeah.
So are they both at AT&T? AT&T.
No, Sakai went to Verizon, actually. Now, yeah, Sakai's done some camps there, but he's not there anymore. He's friends with a couple coaches and good dude. Very, like you said, I mean, these guys are both very, very good technical kickboxers. It's a true pick'em, to be honest. I'm leaning Rozenstruik. I think the money is coming in slightly heavier for Rozenstruik. This is a DraftKings lineup where I have money to spend. Honestly, if I picked things probably the way I would just without looking at dollar odds, I'd have $4,000 left over. So to get him at $8,200, I think is a great value. I also think Sakai at $7,300 is an unbelievable value. So from a DraftKings standpoint, I don't fault you for going either way on this. I think Rozenstruik's going to win the fight. I think he's just got a little bit more power. I'm just, I don't know. It's a bit of a coin flip in my mind because Sakai is very technical, also a good striker. I just think Rozenstruik's probably got a little bit more power and might land a big shot at some point. So total strikes, I'm going more because I do think that both of these guys are pretty technical. They're not overly aggressive. If they don't need to be, they are both willing to be counter strikers. So I could see a lot of feeling out, a lot of back and forth exchanges, and I could see this going a few rounds. So there were some odds I should have jumped on earlier in the week about, you could have gotten, I think, over 2 rounds for minus 140 or something like that. I don't know. The line has shifted a lot, but yeah, I don't see this being an early knockout either way. Could happen, but I think both these guys are going to have a technical striking battle. I could see it going the distance.
Yeah, I even have a note here. I don't think I actually placed the bet, but I have a note here for Sakai wins by decision prop bet because I don't think there's a stoppage. But I just think
chins too.
Yeah, and Sakai, he does have power and volume, but yeah, they both have good chins, and we'll see what happens there. But I'm leaning Sakai. Dan's going Rozenstruik. Jacob split the difference.
Okay. Yeah. So the last Rozenstruik fight, I going into that fight, I thought he was a dynamic kickboxer, right? There's a reason I picked him and Gain in that fight. I thought they were just going to strike it out, kickboxing match, and score 1,000 points each. He landed 49 strikes in 5 rounds against Gain. I could see that happening against Sakai again, where he just kind of waiting. And I thought that he was a dynamic kickboxer, but he's kind of turning into one of these one-punch power guys, and I don't trust him enough like I would Ngannou or Derek Lewis because he doesn't have that type of power and that. So, I think Sakai ends up winning this fight. I don't trust either one of them, so neither one of them are in my lineup for this. I don't have a main event, but I think Sakai is going to win just by being able to be a little bit more volume and won't get caught with the Rozenstruik, big shot, but he could. So I'm staying away from it, but I think Sakai should win the fight just with his technicalities.
Well, it'll be a fun one. I mean, the last heavyweight main event, striker versus striker, was not fun. I do think this one will be more exciting because I think Augusto Sakai will sort of force that action, bring the fight to Rozenstruik, and make something happen. Regardless of who you think wins, I think at least Sakai will dictate the pace. If you want to place a bet on this fight, go to wewantpicks.com/bets. We have a bunch of different options for you.
Now we're minus 130 Rozenstruik and plus 110 for Sakai.
Oh, it's funny.
Coming in on Rozenstruik. By the way, Jacob, that was a fair call about the last fight. The one thing I'll say about Gane, though, is he's so athletic in his footwork. He makes it hard for a heavyweight to kind of go after him, whereas both these guys are a little bit more stationary with their stances. So I think when they do meet, they will exchange a bit more.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I was disappointed. I was really disappointed because I think I had Rozenstruik winning the last fight, even though I picked them both. And it was just such a weird fight.
Yeah.
It's just like, what is he doing? Get in there, do something.
Yeah, it definitely sucked. If you want to play the significant strike line, the total strike line, and Dan, you convinced me, Jacob, you convinced me when you said even in that boring, slow fight, Rozenstruik would have blown past this 37.5. I'm going to go more and more. Go to playmkf.com/wewantpicks. Use promo code WWP. They will instantly match your deposit. Use the free money. Play these lines. I'm going to go more and more. I do think it goes the distance. And Jacob, your context of how many strikes Rozenstruik landed in that boring loss helped me get through this line. Either way, let us know in the comments what you think happens in this fight. Let us know the picks for all the fights, and stay tuned for our DraftKings lineups, our betting guides, and our dedicated monkey knife fight videos.